absolutely a spectacular little road. Hey everyone, welcome back. So I'm up the Peak District. So yeah, it's absolutely breathtaking up here. Let's continue on the bike. I think that's the best thing to do. We'll get rolling, and I'll tell you why my thoughts are changing. And ultimately, what's leading me to move from a V Strom 650 XT onto another bike. Hopefully I'm going to be able to do it and keep the V Strom XT. That's my ideal thing to do. So why do I want to do it, and what's the methodology behind it? The thinking's pretty simple actually. Weight is a big issue. I'm off to Iceland next year. I initially got the V Strom 650 XT with the plan of just doing Norway. I thought Iceland would be a bit too cost prohibitive, but when I started thinking about it, let's let this go. Oh, here I should say. So yeah, I initially thought I'll get the V Strom, that'll tick all the boxes, and to be honest, it ticks 95% of all my riding in the UK at the moment. I'm not going down dirt roads or gravel roads. Now, here's the rub. Iceland, so I'm planning on doing a route quite similar to what Round the World Paul did, which I'm looking forward to. And there's quite a lot of off-road and a lot of river crossings. That's the main issue, is weight and river crossings. If I was going on my own, I think it's even a bigger concern what the weight is on the bike. Obviously you don't want to get in a position where you can't pick your own motorbike up, and yeah, we can all pick them up once, but potentially what if you've got to pick the said motorbike up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times? That's the problem, innit? That's what I see as the problem. I know a lot of others who do quite serious, more off-roader adventure bike riding see it as an issue as well. So yeah, that's a consideration really, weight. So here's where I need your help. Adventure bike riders of YouTube and Instagram, what would you do? I'm heavily leaning towards the 300 Rally at the moment. I'd say that's the #1 bike in my mind for the trip. I don't need a KTM 701 power wise. My dad's coming with me as well, and the seat height on that, even with the lowering link, would just be too prohibitive. It'd just be too tall, which obviously limits the bike choice a little bit. There's the 300L or the 300 Rally. My dad likes the Rally mainly because of what you're getting for the extra money. You're getting a larger tank, which is a considerable increase in fuel range. I've seen people mentioning 230 mile at standard tank, which is pretty good. On top of that, we've got the other aspect of, so yeah, you got the fuel range, which is a serious consideration, and then over the L. But on the flip side, you've got the damageability of the plastics on the Rally. But then you've got the other consideration with the Rally, where you're getting a lot more for your money. You're getting the LED lights over the lights that we get in the UK, you're getting the screen, you're getting the over the mount clock bar, which is handy because even on this you've got to look down to look at the nav, which after having a 1200 GSA I'd say that's the one criticism I've got. But you can get over the clock mount ones for this, but I've had them in the past on the 1000 XT. You can sort of just see my puke screen bouncing about a little, and with the weight of the nav on, it does get very distracting. So obviously that's something I'm not too keen on doing really. I've obviously been watching Nathan Millward's videos. I think they're absolutely superb. Credit to Nathan. The amount of information he crams in him, it's just straight talking, no nonsense. I'd say Round the World Paul's videos are the same, and hopefully some of mine come across that way as well. I'd say that they're the benchmark for me out of the videos I've watched. Solid's videos are good as well, I've really enjoyed them. Chronicles are solid. There's just so many great adventure bike riders out there that are just so inspirational. So yeah, I'd say this section really is inspirations. Heather Sinclair, Steph Jevons, Nathan Millward. Oh God, the list just goes on, doesn't it? Round the World Paul, Simon and Lisa Thomas, you know, there's just, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable the amount of people, even back to Ted and Jupiter Travels. I could just wax lyrical about all the people that are inspiring. And even if you go back further, 1930s, Teresa Wallach, and even further back than that, she was riding a Norton, Cammy Norton, around the world, well, around most of it. Pretty impressive. And she held a gold star, you know, Teresa Wallach at Brooklands, which is impressive. That, if you don't know what that is, that's when you've gone over 100 miles an hour. That was on a Francis Burt bike, from memory. And then further back than that, Pa Norton on his 1920s Big Four, he was absolutely very inspiring to me. It was half of the reason I got the 1920 16H. He did a big trip, I think it was 3,000 miles on a sidecar combination in floods and everything, and that was very interesting to see. And sort of the reason I enjoyed a V Strom a little bit, you don't sort of feel like you've got to get your head down on it. You can just relax into the ride and cover a load of distance and see the world, see different things. That's what adventure bike riding is to me, to be honest. That's the rub, really. And this is what I could do with some advice on. Have any of you done Iceland? If so, what would you have changed and why? What bike would you have took over the one that you took? I'm leaning towards going a lot more towards lightweight ADV now. I mean, the V Strom is a spectacular bike. I made a slight rick on the weight on the last video. I was quoting a Himalayan figure when I should have said V Strom, which is, the V Strom's 216 kilos, which is a lot lighter than the 1200 GS I had and the 1000 XT. It's sort of on par-ish with an F800. But I'd say the V Strom's a better road bike than the F800, and the F800's better in the dirt than the V Strom. So it's all trade-offs, but you do get traction control on the V Strom. I was watching an impressive clip of some American lads, one on a DR650 last night and one on a V Strom, and that was really cool to see. They were, you know, they did pretty cool on the V Strom off-road. I mean, I certainly couldn't argue with what they were getting out of it performance-wise, which is good. You know, it's like this now. I'm sat 70, 6 gear, 5,500 RPM. I can actually talk to you about this now with the new mic setup. It's just so nice. It's smooth. There's not a load of vibrations, hardly any, to be honest. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a motorbike with less vibration. You know, we're doing 64 on the GPS, 69 on the bike speed, and it's just nice and smooth. So what I would like to point out is, going back to the power scenario of how much power do you need. The other bike I ride, which you'll see on the channel, is a 1927 16H. Now that weighs 252 pounds and has 4.9 horsepower, and that absolutely transformed the way I think about adventure bikes and what I want. And the reason being is, with its paltry 4.9 horsepower, which is less than a modern 125 I'll add, but with its lightweight, the handling on it is superb. It's flickable, it feels like a go-kart, it keeps up with modern traffic. I've got held up behind Jaguars, in fact. So it shows you what changing the weight of a motorbike, getting a light bike, actually does. And I think this is something a lot of manufacturers are missing the trick on, really. You go on ADV Rider, and there's a lightweight thread on there. You go on the ultralight ADV group on Facebook, it's been amazing, really inspirational group. And you see a lot of lads converting pure enduro bikes to do around the world travel, a bit like Round the World Paul, and you just think the manufacturers are missing the trick. You know, this is 216 kilo, a GS 280 for the GSA with all the extra tank, and lump by the time you get luggage on it's even heavier. You don't want to be picking that up 15 times in a day. Whereas something like the Rally, 153 kilogram wet, then your luggage, you know, you're comfortably staying under 400 pounds, but you've got the 8,000 mile service interval on it, which does seem to offer a lot of flexibility in my book. And trip I'm looking at is 15,000. You're not got to try and schedule in finding oil or carrying oil. I mean, it's easy enough to do a change, we all know that, there's no disputing that. It takes, what, 20 minutes, especially if I think it only holds about 2 litres, something like that. So it's easy enough to do, but you don't want the hassle of it. I don't anyway. I just want to be getting on and riding. So valve checked, 15,000, very comparable to the V Strom 650, which is good. So it seems to tick all the boxes. The service intervals on a 300 Rally are almost exactly what I'm getting on the beautiful V Strom 650 XT, which I really like. And obviously I've got the advantage, I'm buying these bikes with my own cash, so I can be very objective, say what I don't think's good, what I think will be improved. On the V Strom, a lot more ground clearance, but then you're gaining the issue with the seat. So again, it all comes back to that word, compromise. What is the best compromise for an adventure bike? And that is what I'm trying to suss out. Because obviously my opinions are changing now, because the purpose of what I'm using the bike for is changing. That's the big thing you've got to remember sometimes. Your bike choice will evolve. You won't always necessarily stick on the same motorcycle, because you're changing your bike choice as you go along, as your riding develops, as you change style, as you change what you're doing. If you want to go down more off-road than on-road, if you want to go on more B roads and A roads and motorways, and that's something I like on the V Strom. I think it's very good at this sort of back road scratching, but it'll cruise more than comfortably on the motorway. I did that ride to Scotland, and that come in at about 600 mile in a day. Well, yeah, it's 600 mile. It was brilliant. Fuel economy. Well, yeah, let's talk fuel economy. So V Strom, 68.5 mile per gallon, measured accurately over 450 mile ride, doing these sort of roads and motorway. So you can't argue with that. But the Rally and the 300L, I've seen lads saying on this sort of riding they're getting 100 mile per gallon, and they're getting equivalent-ish, maybe a bit more than this, 80 mile per gallon, let's say, on motorways, which is good. Obviously check your own figures out, this is just what I'm reading second-hand information wise. Now we went and looked at the Rallys, we sat on them. While we were there, we sat on the trusty Himalayan, which a lot of people swear by, and as I coming back to the Norton that I mentioned in the previous section, I'm a big fan of long stroke engines. I think it's a fabulous configuration, and from what I've been reading, the new 450 Himi, they're going to be moving away from that, which I think is a real shame. It gives it such a good characteristic low down. Norton used to say the Norton long stroke 16H or Big 4 will climb any hill, and I think that is a really good point. They're very good, very tractable low down engine, so it gives you that sense of confidence, which I think is probably what a lot of people are saying when they're on them, and they're going, it feels confident, inspiring. Now its Achilles heel is motorway travel, but so is probably any bike. But I think the biggest problem I can see with the Himalayan, and I know it's manageable because it's got an extremely low seat height, but it's the weight of the bike. You're 200 kilos before you even start adding luggage and everything on. With the horsepower, that'll make a bit of a difference. But lots of people have done big travels at Boots. I know that's what everyone put in the comments, which is fair enough. You know, I must admit, it's still on my radar. It's a bike and itch that I need to scratch at some point, but then you come back to parts availability. I seen Nathan's video a few weeks ago where he broke his ABS sensor, and he was saying that parts can be a bit hard to get, a bit of a long wait. Now that's going to be a consideration. If it went ABS sensors going, you can cope with, you can still use the bike. But something more serious went and you're abroad and you paid a load of money for ferries and you need that part, that's a problem. So I know good Honda dealers that can ship me the parts out and get them to me. I'm really excited, everyone. I'm really excited. It's been a long time coming, wanting to do these sort of trips. I remember watching Long Way Round, as we all did as a kid, and that was like one of the biggest inspirations to me. At the time, everyone that I knew was like, nah, don't want to be doing that sort of ride. I didn't do track stuff, which I had a lot of fun doing. So yeah, you sort of find your own way in life, and I've been finding that I've been really enjoying adventure bike riding, slow down, enjoying life, taking in the views, taking in the scenery. I watched Charlie Cinnamon's video where it was very beautifully filmed about him in an office, and it's repeating and repeating and repeating, and then boom, he's adventuring. And I think it's something deep down in you sometimes that just says, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're rushing through life at a gazillion mile an hour. I was doing 70-80 hour weeks for years, absolute years doing that. Sometimes I'd work all the way through the clock if I had to, and it's just sort of think, it had to be done at the time, but I sort of just think now, I want to see the world. I want to experience the beauty of the world, and I want to see things, because you can't take the stuff that you earn with you, but you can take the memories with you depending on your views and stuff. But that's a longer conversation that we could all be on for hours if you get opinions on that. But I'm very much of the mindset that I don't need the world's quickest bike. I just want to be able to, what's that, pigeon? I just want to be able to take the views in. So some at 30 horsepower, 30 to 50 horsepower, I'd say is more than enough power for what I want from the bike. That's what I'd say. 30 to 50 horsepower, light, under 150 kilos, good ground clearance, good off-road capability. I know the rally suspension, the 300L, needs sorting. That's clear to see. You can do it, Itchy Boots is doing it at the moment, but you can see it'd be a lot better. There'd be less vibes coming through the bike with a good suspension setup. I was watching John at Rally Raid's video and said you're blowing through 70% of the stroke, just sat on it, 70% of the travel with the standard suspension and a normal rider with kit, with loaded up kit. That's a great video to go and check out if you're not seeing it. Check the Rally Raid stuff out. So that's probably going to be my first part called suspension, probably be Rally Raid. I know a few people that used it and really rate it, which is good, and it all seems common sense, and I like to support British companies. You know, I was in British manufacturing myself, and all the time you're up against companies abroad. We can do it cheaper, which they can. There's no getting away from that, but I like to support British engineering, British manufacturing where money allows. Hence why I'm going to use Rally Raid or one of the other British suspension companies when the time comes, but most likely going to use Rally Raid. It seems well thought out. I was looking at the level 1 suspension, which seems to tick all the boxes for me. It really does. So yeah, this is the sort of thing, just quickly, you know, comfortably got your feet down. It does make a difference. The other options I've been thinking about, one bike I wish we could get over here is the fabled DR650, which seems like quite the choice of overlanders around the world who've gone around the world. I really like the look of the Suzuki DR650. Nice power specs. What's ain't like the sort of engine I like. You've not got the complexity of water cooling if you smash the rad. Oil and air cooled, which is nice. But they need a bit doing, suspension, larger tank, screen, luggage, etc. And it's all trade-offs, isn't it? It really is. It is absolutely a case of best compromise. It's a case of the bike you're on as well. I think you've got to look at and enjoy looking at. I think that's another thing. You know, you want to look at the bike and put a smile on your face. If it doesn't do that, you're on the wrong bike. At the moment, for me, the V Strom puts that massive smile on my face every time I look at it. I love the looks, I know it's subjective. I like that the tyres tubeless as well, which is handy for plugging on the side of the road. Traction control system's nice, especially when you hit a bit of gravel on a corner or something. It's nice. ABS is nice. It'd be nice if the ABS was switchable. That's one criticism I have. Suzuki, if you're listening, give us a switchable ABS button like you did the traction control. That'd be awesome. Some sort of nav integration, pretty cool. If they got a time with Garmin built on, but it's just adding extra complexity you don't really need. The fueling on the bike is absolutely spectacular. Some of the sweetest, smoothest fueling I've experienced. But every Suzuki I've had, even back to a 1980s DR650 ET, that had very, very sweet fueling on it as well. Engine note is another thing I absolutely love. So I think that's Suzuki V Strom 650 XT. It does tick all the boxes from a road riding point of view. I love it. Comfortable, beautiful seating position, suspension's pretty bang on, not to faff with anything. Obviously it's non-adjustable, but it's a nice compromise setup for the road riding. A bit like Himalayan suspension from what I've heard Nathan Millwood and people like that saying. So back to the point in question. Why am I thinking of changing from a V Strom 650 XT to another motorbike? Or if I can pull it off, hopefully keeping the V Strom 650 XT and bringing another bike in. The reason for that is Iceland. I am off next year, all being well, if everything goes to plan that Dad and I have got planned. From my mum, Dad and I are off to Iceland and Norway and wherever else we end up, probably Denmark as well, hopefully, because I've got some relatives over there. We're gonna go and check it out, do Iceland. I fell in love with it a long time ago. I can't think of many more wildernesses in Europe. I'd love to go do all the stands eventually, but I've just not got the riding experience for that yet. I've got the experience on racetracks and covering distance, but off-road and that is something I want to get better at. And Iceland, with two of us, seems to tick them boxes. Now, we've got two options. I can either get a second V Strom 650 XT, which does seem like a decent option, but the exhaust mounted quite low. That's a criticism. You've not got tons of ground clearance, but they will do off-road. They'll do light off-roading, which is what the majority of the roads are. I don't see why a V Strom wouldn't cope with it in exactly the same way as a 500 Honda CV 500X would, which is why I really like the V Strom. It's something a bit different. I mean, how often do you see V-twins anymore? They're like the forgotten engine config, and it's a shame because the original Africa twin, that was a V. People forget that. The new ones are parallels. The original one, the one that forged the legacy, that was a V.